Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 598, and today's date is February 21st, 2015, and the title of this episode is The Current Economic Collapse News Brief. Let's get right into the economic collapse news. Now, we understand the TTIP, the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, is being pushed by the Obama administration, basically from the central bankers, the corporations, because it's all in their favor. They don't want Congress to read the document. Actually, there has been leaks of the document, and from all the leaks, that what we can get out of it is we understand that this is really put into place to benefit the corporations and the central bankers. Basically, it is a ploy which kind of opens the door to massive influence by big business over future laws. They're going to dictate how everything is done, and what it does, it takes away the consumer rights. It takes away the people who want to protect everyone about public health. And basically what's going on here is they're trying to push this through. And right now Obama has asked Congress to grant him the fast track to get this passed, because the corporations want this passed right now. Now, a lot of countries around the world are saying absolutely not. We are not implementing this whatsoever. I mean, China, Russia, they're creating their own, and they have a lot more countries joining up with that, the Eurasian Trade Agreement, than the TTIP. Even France was out there saying this does not benefit, and Germany was saying this really doesn't benefit us, and we don't know if we're going to pass this at this point. But again, Obama is pushing this as hard as they want because the corporations want this. It's almost like Obamacare. And what's very interesting is that Obamacare is out there. There's glitches. People's insurance has been canceled. But PatriotRising.com, they kind of summed up Obamacare. And let me just say, this is what they put down there. I mean, I can add a lot more to this, but this kind of summarizes what Obamacare is. It raised costs, even though it's called the Affordable Care Act. Reduced benefits, actually took away the benefits of the people. They added no doctors, but created 16,000 new jobs at the IRS. Has a web page that cost $2 billion and it still doesn't work. And canceled 7 million existing policies. So far, less than 10% of the American people have signed up. 20% of those don't actually have insurance because of the computer problems. 2015's premiums will go up 14%. And now the insurance companies need subsidies to bail them out. Why? Because they're not making enough money from the amount of people joining up with this. But President Obama's out there, of course, pushing global warming or climate change, whatever they would like to call it. And we know what this is all for. This is to put a tax on every single person. And don't worry, Obama says, don't worry, when we have the carbon tax, I will do better. But we know for a fact all this is to get money from the people. That is it. Period. Now, a lot of people write into me, and I've had many conversations around where people say, I don't care if the government spies on me. I'm not doing anything wrong. Well, there was an interview with John McAfee, and he said some very interesting things. But let me just go back to our founding fathers. And we need to really recognize what they are saying. And there's a reason why they are telling us these things, because they fought for their freedoms. They shed blood to make this country the way it is, to give us the rights, and to have it down there saying the government cannot take it away. Benjamin Franklin said, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty or safety. Now, John McAfee was out there saying security is an illusion. We don't get out of life alive, none of us, so there can be no absolute security. It doesn't matter whether or not we have something to hide or you're leading a completely lawful legal life. We still require privacy. And people say, why? What's the difference? I'm not doing anything wrong. Because you have to remember, privacy is a choice. Let me give you an example. If you wanted to pose naked, that is your choice. If you wanted to tell someone your private secrets, it is your choice. When the government does it, they take that choice away from you. For example, when you meet a perfectly someone you don't know, a perfect stranger, do you tell them everything about your life, or do you keep things from them because they're private to you and your family? And you really don't want them to know this. Well, if you're doing this with a stranger, even with your friends, you don't want them to know. Why would you allow the government to know everything about you? So when people ask you, you can use these examples. So when we look at privacy, it's not just for human beings, but also creatures around the earth. They use privacy. For example, a rabbit keeps its lair a secret, because if they told the fox where it was, the fox would be waiting all the time. So it's not just humans. Every single creature in the world has privacy. And when you allow the government to spy on you, you give your rights away. You give that choice of having, I'll let this person know this, I won't let this person know this. You completely give that choice to the government. And this is why we need to keep privacy. Basically, John McAfee says, without privacy in society, there would be absolute chaos. Just like, why don't we know every single thing the government officials are doing? Think about it. Or the NSA, or the central bankers. If you notice, their lives are very, very private. They don't want you to know their dirty little secrets. Why is that? So if they can have privacy, so can we. And it's a right that everyone is allowed to have. Now we see out in France, there are demonstrations going on there. Hundreds of protesters took to the streets. The people marched along the streets carrying banners which read, "Against police brutality, social economic violence, resistance." The rallies were marred by violence, and protesters threw stones at security forces, who responded by deploying water cannons and tear gas. But what's very interesting about this whole entire thing is that there were masked men who came in and started throwing stones at the police officers. Basically, agent provocateurs. They want this done on purpose. We've seen it here in the United States, and people call them out on it like, wait a minute, aren't you police officers? And this is when the police officers got very nasty. They're always, and I'm not saying all agent provocateurs are police officers. They're government-hired paid mercenaries. They're people that they plant in certain areas where they want things ginned up, where they want riots to happen, where they want to show, look, this wasn't peaceful. These people are crazy. They're throwing rocks. They're throwing Molotov cocktails. They're doing everything they possibly can to be violent. And this is why the police have to react. But actually, what is happening is they are the ones doing this to convince the rest of the world that these people are not peaceful. But when they really are peaceful, none of this happens. And they're doing this on purpose to push their agenda, where police saying, okay, listen, these people are not peaceful. We're going to have to add more forces. We need better weapons. We need bulletproof vests. We need better equipment. And this happens time and time again. Now, out in Ukraine, we see the OSCE. They have gained access to Dalbotsivo, and they're going to produce a report. It's being readied right now about what has been going on in this area. Now, Poroshenko, he wants Europolice or NATO troops in Donbass. Now, of course, he's using this because he wants troops lining the streets. He wants troops on the border. And he would love to have NATO do this. And, of course, Ukraine is actually not a NATO nation. They're really not part of NATO at this time. But he wants them in this area. Why? Because it will allow him to bring in other Ukrainian troops, paid mercenaries, and it would give them the ability to capture this region. Plus, there would be NATO U.S. troops right on the border of Russia. This is their strategy. Do I think it's going to work? Most likely not. Now, there is a Ukraine deputy foreign minister. He's out there saying, we don't want to scare everyone, but we are preparing for a full-scale war. We would like the West to send lethal weapons to Ukraine, weapons to allow us to defend ourselves. No, basically the weapons are so you can attack the Donbass area. He wants Canada to help by supplying lethal weapons and the training to use them. So it looks like they're still planning for a major offensive. And like I said in the past, I know there's a ceasefire, which they're hoping that will lead to peace. But again, the central bankers, they're not going to give up. They're not just going to walk away and say, okay, we lost Ukraine, no big deal, everyone go back to the way they were. No, what they're going to do is they're going to push their agenda. They're going to mount a major offensive one way or another. Even if they even if they have to stage a false flag event, they will do it. Could be a mini nuke. Could be some type of other attack. But whatever they're going to do, they're going to blame it on the southeastern people and most likely Russia. And again, what would be the motivation of Russia to do this? There is none whatsoever. The motivation is with the United States, the EU, the Kiev government. They're the ones who need to take over the southeastern regions and Crimea. Now, it seems that the Yemeni president, which was he was being held by the people of Yemen, they seem to let him go right now. And of course, he's screaming out that he's still president, which he's not, because the government has fallen and the people have taken over the country. And we see that Iran is warning the Yemeni people, beware of the United States and the Council of the Gulf States, saying be cautious of any attacks against your resistance. Because again, as we know, they've closed many of the embassies, they have evacuated many of the embassies, and they absolutely know the United States central bankers want to get back into Yemen, of course, Libya. They want troops in Lebanon, and we know they're making a major offensive in Iraq. And there's a CIA contractor out there, Stephen Kelly, and he says that the Islamic State terrorist group is completely fabricated. It was created and funded by the United States. Now, that's another confirmation. We knew this from the past, but they're coming out of the woodwork to let us know that, yeah, this is completely fake, phony, and false. Now, we know the United States is making a major offensive. They're going to attack Mosul, which is going to be a widespread war inside Iraq because the people are rising up there. And these are the people they're attacking. They're not attacking the Islamic State whatsoever. They're attacking the people who are rising up. The Islamic State just maneuvers in and out of different areas where people, they put up the flags, then they leave the area, and people say, oh my God, the Islamic State is here. No, this is to create chaos. What's really happening is that in every country, Yemen, Lebanon, Libya, Iraq, the people are sick and tired of having the United States government, central bankers in their country. They're sick and tired of this puppet government bowing to the central bankers. They want their countries back. And this is why we see an uprising going on right now. We see it in Ukraine. And we see it in the Middle East. They've had enough. And it is spreading. And they're seeing that, wait a minute, Yemen throughout their government, Libya throughout their government. Now, Lebanon wants to do the same thing, and so does Iraq. And they see that they are losing the battle, and they need ground troops in there. This is why they commandeered an air base. Now they're out there saying, yes, we're going to be setting up an air base. Well, we already knew this from the past, way before they even let us know. We knew that they were setting up a division headquarters to support about 30,000 troops. And right now, the United States is not just sending 4,000 troops into Kuwait. They're sending multiple thousands, 10, 15, 20, because you have to remember the division headquarters can support up to 30,000 troops. And they're getting ready for a major offensive. And right now we're getting word that, yes, U.S. ground troops will be playing a role in this offensive in spring. And we know it's mostly going to be the United States. Basically, we're going to be in the next war in Iraq. And this is going to be carried out, and it's going to spread throughout Iraq, down into Lebanon, down into Libya, and up into Syria. Because wherever the Islamic State is, that's where the United States government needs to go, or wants to go. We see the Islamic State has just received new weapons from the U.S. They made another drop, or they're out there reporting that, yes, Islamic State seized another cache of weapons. No, it was delivered to them by the United States because they need them inside Syria. They need to take over some more land. There's a battle in Aleppo going on right now. The Syrian government is trying to cut off the supply lines to the rebel forces, and we can see right now Turkey has been firing into Syria over the border, and we can see they are getting ready for a major offensive in this entire region. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.